everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. It is great to see you all here. Thank you so much for once again joining and sharing your time with us today. The Universal Wisdom Foundation, Inc. and Sravasti Monastery warmly welcomes you to today's Dharma Talk, Facing Difficulties with Joy and Equanimity by Venerable Thubten Chodron. It is an honor and we are grateful to join Venerable Chodron and to be the first Zoom meeting in their new Buddha Hall. Just letting you know that we are recording this session to share later on Wisdom Park platforms. If you're happy to be included, then that's great. If not, please feel free to leave the meeting at any time and you are welcome to watch the recording later on. Your mic shall be muted the whole time of the talk, and in the Q&A session afterwards, you can ask a question by clicking the raise hand button, or you may send the question to the host using the chat box and we will unmute you as needed. We also encourage everyone to please, if possible, open your camera so that we can make this Dharma talk more active and a positive experience for everyone. Venerable Thubten Chodron is an author, teacher, and founder and abbess of Sravasti Abbey, a pioneering Tibetan Buddhist training monastery for Western nuns and monks in the U.S. She has studied extensively with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Tsenzhap Serkong Rinpoche, and other Tibetan lamas. She received full ordination as a bhikshuni in 1986. Venerable Chodron teaches worldwide and is known for her warm, practical, and humorous explanations of how to apply Buddhist teachings in daily life. She is also involved in prison outreach and interfaith dialogue. She has published many books on Buddhist philosophy and meditation and assisted His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the writing and publication of The Library of Wisdom and Compassion, a 10-volume series of teachings on the Buddhist path. Thank you so much.
Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Mune Soha. 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 Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Mune Soha.
Oh. Good day, Venerable. So good to see you again. And we're so excited to listen to another lecture from you. I am Dr. Raj. I'm the chairman of the Universal Wisdom Foundation. I'd like to thank you so much for sharing your time and your energy and your knowledge and wisdom with all of us here. You do have a way of making the core teachings of the Buddha come alive and making them relevant to everyday life. And that's why we're so excited to listen to you again today. Now, on behalf of the Universal Wisdom Foundation, I would like to sincerely invite you to come over to the Philippines for a series of lectures, hopefully by next year. And we are going to be very happy to host you and to show you around and to organize the lectures for the local community. And so we would be very, very happy if you could accept this invitation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the invitation, and we'll have to see how the schedule pans out for next year. Okay, good.
Thank
But
you.
I appreciate being able to give these two talks to you, the one 2 weeks ago and then again today. And today the talk is I think, our first Dharma talk in the main hall of our new Buddha hall. So it's, yeah, hooray. Yeah, we've been in the process of building this building just about 3.5 years, just of the construction phase. Planning it was before. So this is a big thing for us. Yeah. Okay, so today we'll start out with some recitations. Are we putting them on the screen? Okay. Yeah, we'll do refuge and bodhicitta and also the four immeasurables. Have a few minutes of meditation where you can watch your breath to quiet your mind, settle your mind down. And then I'll lead you in generating a motivation and we'll get into the talk. And if there's time at the end of the talk, there will be Q&A, but there may not be. We'll see what happens. Okay. And I'd like to request all the people online who I just see black boxes with your name in it. Please show your face, okay? Yeah, it makes a difference to a speaker to see the people and to know how, everybody's receiving what you're saying. It influences how you speak, what you say, and so on. Okay, come on. The bottom row, you can do it, you can do it. Yeah, yeah. Venerable Damcha is hiding for the last moment, hoping that she doesn't have to be on the screen. What? Well, there was somebody on here called Venerable Damcha. Oh, you're here and you're also watching it online. Okay. Okay. So, in the space in front, imagine the Buddha, this body made of golden light. And he's surrounded by many other Buddhas and many bodhisattvas. And you're surrounded by all sentient beings. And we're all facing the Buddhas and bodhisattvas together. And when we take refuge, it's because we're leading all sentient beings in turning to the three jewels for spiritual guidance.
I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity.
free of bias, attachment, and anger. Okay, so come home to your breath, just breathing normally and naturally, not forcing your breath. And just observe what is going on every time you inhale, what is going on every time you exhale. So the movement of the air, the movement inside your body to welcome the air. Note if there's a pause between the inhalation and the exhalation, and what it feels like to exhale. So we'll do that for a couple of minutes and let the mind settle down. And then we'll cultivate our motivation. So think for a minute, why did the Buddha teach the Dharma? He could have stayed in his meditative equipoise on the nature of reality for a long time. But why did he come out of that and teach the Dharma? What motivated him? When we think about the Buddha's qualities, we see that what motivated him was his great compassion. With compassion, he didn't want sentient beings to continue to struggle and drown in the ocean of cyclic existence. So he was fueled by compassion for us, for all of us, equally. So if that was the Buddha's motivation for teaching, great compassion, then as those listening to what he taught, we should try and generate a similar motivation, one of great compassion for all sentient beings, no matter who they are, what they look like, whether we like them and their personalities or don't, whether they are kind to us or mean to us. Just as the Buddha had equal compassion for all of us, imagine for a moment what it would be like for us to have equal compassion for all other sentient beings. To be pushed to pay attention and think about the teachings, not because we're caring solely about ourselves, but because our mind is very open and wishes the best for everybody together. And so with that motivation, we'll share the Dharma today. So the folks in the Philippines sent a few questions that I want to read now, and then I'll go into the talk, and then we'll come back to the questions. So I'm not going to answer the questions now. I'm just going to share with you what they are. Okay. So this is a recap of their questions. So the first one was, how does one compartmentalize overwhelming emotion and keeping a positive mind? Are they not mutually exclusive? Okay. Second question is, how is joy possible when practicing equanimity? Isn't equanimity about mental calmness? Okay. And the third question is, when one is in a difficult situation, for example, a serious health problem, facing death, financial dire situation for the family, even if one were acquainted with meditation and mindfulness, it seems impossible to snap out of one's worries. Is there a Buddhist trick to overcoming unavoidable worries in life? Can one teach the mind to be ready before such a situation happens so that stress and worry do not take over? Okay, so I see some nodding heads in the audience here. So, okay. So I want to go into one topic that I often start people off on, when they're first coming to Buddhism. And that's that our mind is the source of our happiness and our misery. So by mind, I don't mean the brain. The brain and the mind are two different things. The brain is physical material made of atoms and molecules. The mind is not made of material, yeah, and it knows, the mind is what knows objects, so it cognizes, it feels, it experiences, it thinks, yeah. So the mind is what really makes us living beings, not the brain. Because you could have a body here with a brain, and it could be a dead person. Okay, so it's the presence or absence of the mind that is really important, and the activities of the mind that are what we, form what we experience. Now this, looking at it this way, that it's our mind that makes the difference, is very different than our usual perspective on life, because we usually look at life, we wake up in the morning, and what's going on? Yeah, what am I going to do today? That's usually our first thought, something like that, just ordinary people. And what can I get that will make me happy? And what can I be free of that won't make me happy and would cause me pain and misery? Okay? Because our basic thing is we want happiness and we don't want pain. And that's kind of universal for all sentient beings, humans and animals, yeah. Okay. So already with what we're looking for, we're thinking our happiness and our misery come from outside. Yeah. Okay, I wake up in the morning. I need some instant happiness. Yeah, okay. So some chai in the morning. Yeah. Or coffee for those people who are addicted to that substance. We want a hot drink in the morning, unless, of course, it's hot outside, then we'll take anything. Okay, then we want breakfast, not just any old thing. We want a tasty breakfast. Yeah, then we need to go to we may see our family. Yeah, but we're just waking up from sleep, so it's kind of like, hello, I'm busy eating. Yeah. Unless, of course, you have kids and one of the kids is crying, and then it's like, oh, God, that crying baby is the source of my unhappiness. Okay. The child who comes in and jumps in my lap and hugs me, that now I'm happy because of that child. So again, everything's coming from outside. Then you want a pleasant trip when you're going to your workplace. Yeah, what makes a pleasant trip? Well, the nicest thing would be if you had a limousine, but you don't have that. So maybe the bus, yeah, maybe a subway, maybe a car, yeah. But you want a day where there's no traffic, because traffic is just irritating and, frustrating. Yeah, clear highway, we like that. And so the day unfolds, yeah, all the time looking outside, what is going to make me happy and what is going to make me miserable. So I want everything that's going to make me happy, and I want to get rid of everything that's miserable. Because the way we look at things is that it's like the happiness is in the outside person or the external object, or the misery is in that person or that object. Somebody looks at us, yeah, and they smile, that makes us happy. It's like the happiness is coming from that person. Yeah. When someone doesn't like something we've done and they criticize us, our feelings are hurt or we're angry, and the unpleasantness we experience, it came from that person. Okay? So we look at our experiences of pleasure and pain as if the only control we have over them is how we can navigate and the external world and place every person and object in a way that we want it to be, so that we get only happiness and no pain. Yeah. So we would really like to control everyone and everything so that we have happiness. Can you control everyone and everything? No. Okay. So we've already tried to control everything in the environment. That's what we've been doing, our whole life and all of our previous lives. Yeah. If that method had brought happiness, none of us would be here listening to this talk now. We would all be blissed out in nirvana somewhere. Okay. But that strategy hasn't worked. Yeah. Number one, because we can't control everybody. Yeah. So already, just by the way the world exists, we're going to be unhappy because we cannot control everybody. Yeah. We try. We have lots of advice for everybody. Yeah, you should do this and you should do that, and please don't do this and you don't do that. Yeah, we have lots of advice, especially for the people in our family, people at our workplace. Yeah, our friends, we have some advice for, just a little bit. The people we don't like, we have a lot of advice for. And if you live in the US right now, and I think if you live in some other countries in the world, you have a lot of advice for the government. Yeah. And what do people do with all of our sages' advice? Yeah. That's when they're being polite. They have another hand gesture when they're not so polite. Okay. Or when they're polite, they say, thank you. And when they're not, or they say, yes, I'll think about it. When they're not so polite, they put their hands on their hip and they say, mind your own business, you beep, beep, beep. Stop giving me advice. I don't want it. Okay. And then, of course, we're unhappy because somebody screamed at us. Yeah. What do we do when we're unhappy? Anybody here moody? Yeah. Yeah. You're not moody? Yes, you are. We all know it because we are moody too. Yeah. We're all moody. And when we meet other people, we never quite know who we're meeting. Are we going to meet them when they're in a good mood, or are we going to meet them when they're in a bad mood? Yeah. We don't ask, what kind of am I going to present them with? No, if I'm in a good mood, they have to take that. If I'm in a bad mood, they have to take that. Yeah. Okay. So we want to control everybody. We can't. We're already frustrated. We're stuck in samsara. Okay, samsara being cyclic existence. We try and control, we cannot. We get more frustrated. Okay. So what the Buddha said was, you can't control the external world, but you can control your mind. Yeah. You can train your mind, your heart, that cognitive, feeling, experiential part of you. You can train it to look at situations in different ways. And we can see, even before we start to train our mind, if we look, we can see that how that already, how we think is influencing how we experience. Okay, so one example I like to give is, I think everybody's had the experience of going into a room where you don't know anybody. Either it's the first day of class when you're in school, or it's a party, or it's, the first day at work, or some new experience. You don't know anybody. Okay. Now, one person stands outside the room, ready to go in, and pauses and thinks, oh, I'm so nervous. Are these people going to like me? I'm sure they all know each other. They're all friends. I don't know anybody. Are they going to like me? Am I going to be accepted into the group? Yeah. Or am I going to be rejected? Do I look okay? Oh, what kind of group is this so I can say the kind of things that I think they'll like? Yeah. So one person is really, really anxious. What happens if I go in there, they're all chatting with each other. I'm just standing there alone, not talking to anybody because I don't know anybody. Yeah, what are they going to think of me? Yeah, ugh. Yeah? Anybody had that kind of anxiety before going into a new situation? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Then another person, they're going into a new situation where they don't know anybody, and they say, wow, this is going to be really interesting. I don't know anybody. All those people have had so many different life experiences. They've grown up in different circumstances, different families, different countries. They've had so much experience, and I want to get to know them and you hear about their experiences because it's really interesting to learn how other people think and what they've gone through in their life and what they've learned from what they've experienced. So this is going to be really interesting. Yeah. And there may be some people in that group who, also are like me, who don't know anybody, who may be a little shy. And if I notice those people, I'm going to make an effort to go and talk to them. Okay, so you have two different people going into the same situation. One is like, I'm anxious. I don't know how it's going to turn out. And the other person is, this is going to be interesting and fun. Okay, the person who is anxious, what's the experience of going into that room going to be like for them? Not so comfortable. Yeah, they're going to go in like full of self-doubt, full of being wary of the people around. Are they going to reach out and talk to somebody they don't know? No. Yeah. because they're too scared of what people are going to think about them. Yeah, they don't know if they're going to be accepted. So they really hold back. Do they have a good time? No, they have a miserable time. Okay. The other person, who also doesn't know anybody, goes into the room and says, okay, let's see, here's somebody. I'm just going to go up and talk to them and see why they're here and what their background is and what they think about the purpose of the gathering. Yeah, so they talk to that person, then they talk to somebody else. Maybe they notice somebody who seems to be alone and goes up and talks to them. Yeah, what's that person's experience going to be? They're going to have a good time. What's the difference between the person who has a good time and the person who has a bad time? Yeah, it's going to be.
And well, the person who's having a bad time is focused on themselves, and the person who's having a better time is looking out for other people.
The person who's having a bad time. What's the difference? Why one is happy and one isn't?
Their attitude.
Yeah, their attitude. Yeah, how they're thinking about the situation before they go in, what their attitude is what is the determining factor of how they act. And how they act, being shy and nervous versus being friendly. Yeah, that's going to, how their attitude is going to influence their actions, which will influence their experience. And they don't have to control anybody in the situation. Okay. So, what is this saying? Yeah, it's saying that we need to pay more attention to our attitude, to our thoughts, to how we interpret things, and maybe not have so many preconceptions about the external situation. Yeah, because when we have a lot of preconceptions, we're going to doom ourselves to follow along, with that. When we go in with a fresh mind, an interested mind, yeah, we're going to talk, we're going to chat, people will respond, we'll have a good time. So it really begins with what's going on inside here. Yeah. Now, let's give another situation, okay? You're doing your job at work, yeah, and you just did your job. Some days you have more time. Some days you're very hurried and you have to work quickly and to get something done. And somebody up rank from you, maybe your boss or maybe your boss's assistant comes and says, this was your job to do X, Y, Z, and there's a lot of mistakes in it. Yeah, what was going on? The instructions were very clear, and you botched the job up. Yeah, we hired you because we thought you were reliable, but it turns out that you're just careless. Yeah, and you better shape up or otherwise we're going to ship you out. Because this kind of behavior, this lackadaisical attitude you have just is not going to work. Do you understand? And you're like, yeah. Okay, now you may respond. There's kind of two ways to respond. both ways, we're usually angry. Yeah. Our feelings are hurt. When our feelings are hurt, what do? We don't like feeling hurt feelings. So what do? We blame the other person for hurting our feelings. Why am I suffering? My feelings are hurt? Because you just scolded me and you told me off and you threatened with firing me and you don't listen to anything and you don't appreciate me anyway. I work very hard for this company and look how, this is what's going on in our mind, okay? Then the behavior right? Yeah, is that how you usually feel when somebody criticizes you? Yeah. Like they don't understand. Yeah, I just did what I thought was best. It didn't hurt anybody, and now they're just, on my case. Okay, this is our thought process. Now, one person, the thought is in the mind, and it comes out the mouth. And you say to your boss all those things that you were thinking, not like, dear boss, I'm really trying my best. No. What do you say to your boss? You're ticked off. Yeah. What I just said, in that kind of tone and voice. It's like, why are you picking on me? I did my best. I followed your instructions. Your instructions were faulty. What are you on my case for? Blame that person or blame yourself. Okay, and you act like that. Okay, now we all know what's going to happen from there. Okay. Then another person who's also angry, what do? Well, they were always taught to be good kids. And if you're a good kid, you don't yell and scream at somebody when you're mad. What do? Your feelings are hurt. You just leave the situation, go somewhere else, close the door, take out your tissue. Yeah, and have a pity party. I try so hard and they pick on me. I thought I did a good job. What's wrong with me? I've been working at this job for 10 years and I can't do anything right. And you go home and you continue your pity party. Okay? Yeah. And what do you do when you're having a pity party? Yeah, besides kind of, cry, suck your thumb, play some records, smoke a cigarette, smoke some dope, drink something to alleviate your pain. But foremost, what you're doing is you're waiting. Yeah, because you've gone home, you're hurt. Yeah. You're waiting for either your boss to call and apologize or your spouse to come in and comfort you. Right? Yeah, you're having a pity party and they should feel sorry for you and you need some TLC, some tender, loving care. Yeah. So your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever it is, walks in and says, "Oh, you seem upset. Are you upset?" Oh, no. Yeah. And then that person kind of says, tell me what's wrong. Let's talk it over. No. And so they leave because you've chased them away. and you resume your pity party. Now it's 2 pity parties at the same time. One because of your boss, the second because your spouse left. And they were supposed to stay there. And however you responded, they were supposed to take it and tell you what a wonderful person you were, how wrong your boss was, you know, for saying that because you do everything right. And, you know, and you forget that your boyfriend, girlfriend doesn't even know why you're upset because you haven't told them. Yeah. But anyway, they're supposed to read your mind and know, and then praise you and tell you how wonderful you are. And they aren't doing what you want. So now you have double pity party. My boss doesn't like me. My spouse, my girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it is, doesn't understand me. The whole world is against me. Okay. Now you need another package of ticket. There's only one package of tissue. Oh, I need another one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You ever been engaged in anything like that? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, let's back up. What's going on here? Yeah. With both people, whether they throw their anger on top of somebody or whether they inhale it and stuff it down. Yeah. Yeah. Both ways, they're very unhappy. Yeah. Both ways, they don't communicate very well. You scream at your boss, that's not going to go over well. But you withdraw and don't talk and have a pity party and call in sick the next day at work. That's not going to go over very well with your boss either. Okay. And we're sitting there waiting for somebody else to accept the responsibility for our hurt feelings and our bad mood, because it's their fault. Yeah, it's my boss's fault. It's my boyfriend's fault. Yeah. They don't understand me. They don't reach out. They don't appreciate me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you can see here, yeah, that both strategies don't really work very well for your relationship with the other person, and they don't work very well for your own peace of mind and your own happiness. Yeah. Now, let's take another person, a third person who comes in. Yeah. And now let's see how they react to that situation. They went to work. They've been working at the company for a while. The boss, you know, does a big, heavy case on them and scolds them and tells them they're unreliable. And that person thinks, okay, let me think about that and see if there's anything in what the boss said that, you know, I agree with. Because if I did make a mistake or I am ignoring something, then, you know, what they're saying to me is useful information. Yeah. I made a mistake. If I made a mistake or I was irresponsible, get mad? I have to own the results of my own behavior. You know, the boss is just kind of pointing something out to me that I need to look at more closely and be responsible for in the future. Yeah. So this person approaches that situation that way. Yeah. Are they mad? No. Are they blaming their boss? No. Yeah. They go back home and they think about what the boss said. Maybe they discuss it with their boyfriend, girlfriend. Yeah. And let's say they come to the conclusion of, I was kind of careless in that regard. And, I need to be more careful. What the boss said was right. Yeah. If what he said was true, there's no reason for me to get angry because what they were saying is true. Yeah. And I have to work on that. On the other hand, let's say, that person has thought about it and the boss missed some points. The boss didn't have a big chunk of the information. So they jumped to the wrong conclusion, and that's where all their scolding came from. Okay, so again, the boss is scolding me, but it's not because he hates me or wishes me, to drop dead or anything. It's because the boss lacks a piece of information that they need to understand why I did what I did or what problems I encountered when I was doing that. So if I explain the situation to the boss, then I'm sure that, his take on it will change. So again, there's no reason for me to be upset because what the boss said to me didn't really apply to me. Yeah. And I just have to explain the situation. Okay. So what's making the difference between these three people and how they handle it and how they experience it? Yeah. Again, it's their attitude, isn't it? It's how they are explaining the situation to themselves and thus how they should respond to the situation. First, check if, if what the person who said those words, if what they said was true. If it's true, no reason to get angry. Yeah. If it's not true, also no reason to get angry. Okay. So that person, is more even-minded. They're not so upset. They deal with the situation and the situation is finished for them. Whereas for the people who got really upset and either exploded or imploded, the situation isn't finished. And the next day, they ruminate about it again and again. They play the situation again and again in their mind. I just did this, and then they did that, and they did that, and then my boss said this and this based on that and that, and you're going over it again and again. And the whole conclusion of every time you think about it is, I was treated unfairly. Yeah. Everything in this world is unfair. They don't understand me. Oh. And again, ruminate, ruminate, ruminate. And maybe plot your revenge. The boss is always on my case. I'm going to get on their case. Yeah. Give them a little taste of their own medicine. What shall I do? Yeah, and planning revenge. Wonderful way to handle conflict, isn't it? Yeah, get even. Plan revenge. Yeah, or another person may say, it's useless talking. I'm just going to have a stiff upper lip and develop ulcers because I'm keeping all my anger inside because the world doesn't understand me. Yeah? Okay. So the whole thing, again, hinges on our attitude, on how we describe the situation to us, to ourselves. Yeah, because it's so easy. When we look at a situation, we see it through a whole lot of filters. Yeah, you know the story about the, what was it? You know, a group of blind men who encountered an elephant, but of course they didn't know what an elephant was. They had never met one. So they each started, you know, going out there and touching and listening to different parts of this big thing. They didn't know if it was a living being or a building. Yeah. And then at the end, they described, oh, well, yeah, I felt it had one big pole, actually 4 big poles. Yeah, that was supporting it. And then somebody else says, no, it had like a lasso with some frills on the bottom that kept swinging, yeah, one side to the other and going in circles. And somebody else said, no, they had a big round thing, yeah, with a hole in the end that snorted. Yeah. And, you know, they're all perceiving something different, and they don't realize that it's just their own perspective on one object. Yeah, perceiving it according to how, you know, in this case, according to the information they had. So everybody may have different information. But even if they touch, you know, let's say everybody touches the tail, you know, and one person, you know, ooh, it's wiggling around. I'm scared of it. It could hit me. And another person says, no, it's very soft. I like to touch it. Yeah. Again, the same object. One person sees it as something pleasant. One person is frightened of it. Yeah. And so we, you know, these examples, they're great. Yes, they make a lot of sense. But when I am in a situation, I am perceiving it as it is, objectively. However I describe it to myself is not a subjective description, it is an objective one. This is what happened, right? And we each believe our version is objectively the truth. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now it's very interesting, you know, with the shutdown in the US. The government shut down because they can't agree on a budget. Okay. So this side is blaming that side, and that side's blaming this side. And this one is saying something false about that one, and that one saying, well, I side with this side. So it's not saying anything false about the other side. The side I side with, yeah, is the right one. Yeah. The other side, you know. Okay, but I'm seeing it objectively. Right? Yeah, I don't have any bias or prejudice, except for the fact that I've never liked the other side. Why should I start now? Yeah. Okay. So the whole point here is our mind is creating our reality. And our mind, you know, so much is determining whether we're happy or miserable. Yeah. But we don't see that. We think that whatever we're seeing, we're thinking our interpretation is an objective reality. Yeah. And since we have the one objective reality, we should win the argument, and everybody else is wrong. And if they're wrong, then they need to be punished, because that's the only way they're going to learn. Yeah. If I don't point out to them what's wrong and punish them, do something they don't like, then they'll never look at their own behavior and change. Okay, now let's switch the characters here. Yeah. When somebody tells you you're wrong, yeah, that they're right and they're seeing the facts and you're wrong, do you go, oh yeah, that sounds right to me? No, you don't do that. What do? Yeah, you do this. Yeah, first you do the body language. Feet apart, arms crossed, dirty look on your face, like a nice smirk. Yeah. And then what do? Yeah, you blame them again. Mm-hmm. Or you know, go and take your tissue, which, yeah, you need another pack now, and go have another pity party. Because we're seeing the objective truth and they're wrong and they won't admit it. Okay. It's exhausting, isn't it? It's totally exhausting. But do we, when somebody tells us, you know, that we didn't, that we're seeing the situation subjectively, do we stop and ask ourselves, oh, maybe I am? No. We reassert ourselves, we're the right one. Yeah. And the world should know that we are always right. Yeah. They should always understand my interpretation is not a subjective thing. I am not seeing it through filters. I see things clearly. Yeah. Objectively, as they are. Yeah. Why? Because I always see things correctly. Yeah. So you have a problem? Look at things my way. Admit you're wrong. Right? Yeah. Do they look at things our way and admit they're wrong? No. And samsara goes on. We're more unhappy. We yell some more. We recuse ourselves some more. What would happen if, you know, when somebody told us that, you know, how we were seeing things isn't the way they are, that we're exaggerating or we're not seeing things correctly? What would happen if we stopped and thought about it? What would happen if somebody said to us, you know, you're projecting motivations on me and you haven't even asked me why I did what I did? Yeah. What would happen if we thought, oh, maybe I am projecting things on the other person? Maybe I didn't. You know, I saw the situation like this and I said, oh, they must have that motivation when they do that. Why do I think they must have that motivation? Because when I do that action, that's the motivation I would have. Yeah. Or that's the motivation my mom or dad, always had. So every time something similar to that happens, I go into that same mode and I project a motivation on them. Have I asked them? No. Do I know what they're really thinking? No. Oh, does that mean recording wasn't in progress before? Yeah, it's all your fault back there. No, no. What do you mean shaking your head? No. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the one who's really responsible is hiding behind the people in front. Yeah, I see. I just not noticed his head go up and down. He's agreeing with me. Yeah, it's your fault. Yeah. So, yeah. So, what would happen if instead of all this projection and story rewriting, we just stopped for a minute and, looked at the situation from a different angle? What would happen if the person who was shy going into the room that they don't know anybody just said, well, yeah, I'm shy, but there's got to be some nice people in that room. Yeah, I'm going to nudge myself and go start a conversation with one of them. That's not a difficult thing, is it? To say, oh, look, I'm already certain that they're not going to like me and not going to accept me, and I haven't even walked in the room. That is my stuff. That is my garbage. Yeah. What would happen if I just went in and talked to somebody and saw how it went? Yeah. So just a little change in perspective would change the behavior and change how you feel and how the situation turned out. Yeah. Okay, let me tell you some stories to illustrate just small ways that you can do this. Okay, when I was a teenager, like many teenagers, I didn't get along well with my parents. Yeah, when I lived at home, I had a curfew and I had to be home at that time. I couldn't be sitting out in front of the house in the car talking to my friends. I had to be in the house at that time. I didn't like that because all my friends could stay out later. And my parents were trying to control me. I mean, I was 16. Yeah. And when you're 16, you're almost omniscient. Yeah. You can take care of yourself. Yeah. And you know things. You're a smart person. You can take care of yourself. Why don't my parents trust me? Okay. So that's how I was looking at the situation. So what were my issues in this conflict with my parents? My autonomy, my independence, my freedom. Okay. What were my parents? What was their concern? My safety. We were arguing over totally different things. I was arguing over my independence and freedom. They were arguing about my safety. Did either one of us understand the other person's position? No. Did both of us think that we did understand the other person's? Yes. Yeah. So we were missing each other, totally missing each other, arguing about different things, thinking that the other person is just being stubborn and stupid. Yeah. Okay. Fast forward a number of years. Okay. I'm ordained. My younger brother is getting married. my parents asked me to come to the, come back to their home for the wedding. Okay, so I go home, and I'm having breakfast with my mom, my future sister-in-law, and my sister. So the four of us are sitting having breakfast. And my mom says, you're going to stand up in the wedding and you're going to walk down the aisle with your grandma. And I have a really nice dress for you to wear that will look really great. Yeah, just your color. Yeah, so I'll give it to you later. You can put it on and wear it. It'll fit you. Okay, and fine. We kept having breakfast. After breakfast, my mom goes away to do something. And my sister-in-law and my sister look at me and they said, we can't believe that she told you what to wear. You're an adult. You're not a kid. And she told you what to wear. Like, why didn't you get mad? We're really surprised that you aren't mad. And I stopped and I thought, well, why wasn't I mad? Well, first of all, I know getting mad at my mom doesn't bring any good results. I've tried that before. But why wasn't I mad? Because I knew at that time in my life, I was an adult, I knew that I was independent. I didn't have to prove to my mom that I was. I didn't need her to recognize my independence and let me choose what to wear. If wearing that will make her happy, that's the smallest thing I can do to make my mom happy. And, keep some peace in the family rather than start an argument over what to wear. Because, Mom, I am now, whatever age I was, 35, 45, I'm an independent. Don't you tell me what to wear. You've been doing that my whole life, Mom. I am not a baby. Get off my case. Yeah, I had no wish to do that. I didn't even need to suppress the wish because by that time in my life, I really didn't need to prove my independence to myself or to my mom. Makes her happy, I'll do it. No sweat off my back. Okay. So that's an attitude. That's a show how you can change your attitude. Yeah, she's not attacking me. She's not taking away my independence. She's just being what moms are. And I recalled the time when my grandma told my dad, when my dad was 60-something, Grandma told my dad, please wear a sweater so you don't catch cold when you go outside. This is what parents do. Why do you expect something else? They always are going to love you and see you as, this little kid that they have to protect because they love you so much. They don't want you to suffer. Okay, that's all. I don't need to get mad. Okay, I'll tell you another time how I dealt with it. I can't even remember the specifics of the situation, but it was another time I was visiting them. And I guess I was supposed to, I don't know, do something or, Anyway, I guess I didn't understand what she wanted me to do and I didn't do it. And, and so we were on the phone. Yeah, so I must not have been there visiting her. I must have been somewhere else. So we're on the phone and Mom is going, I told you to do blah, 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 blah. Why didn't you do it? You didn't do it. And therefore there's this problem and that problem. All of those problems I thought were like stupid. They weren't problems to me, but anyway, they were problems for her. And she starts, you know, going on about, well, why did you do that? You should have known better. You're an intelligent person. You know, why are you being so stupid? And you should have known that. And again, it's like, I have no wish to fight with my mother and win an argument. You know, I'm not 16 anymore. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. Okay. I have no wish to have an argument with her. So I said, well, Mom, I feel really bad for you. You have a really stupid daughter. That was the end of the conversation. Yeah. If I had tried to defend myself, she would have kept on going. Yeah. But like I said, well, I guess you just have a dumb daughter. What could she say? So, and again, it was like I wasn't suppressing my anger or anything. It's just I had a totally different attitude. And again, don't need to quarrel. Okay? So the whole point here is to step back and to ask ourselves, you know, like, how am I seeing this situation? And yes, to acknowledge, yes, I'm pretty sure I'm seeing it through my filters. I've had certain experiences in the past. So anybody who looks like this, I'm going to think that about them. Yeah. Have you ever seen a person who reminds you that just the way they look of like somebody in grammar school who threw rocks at you or made fun of you? Yeah. Just you meet somebody as an adult, but they remind you of that. Yeah. Automatically, I'm not going to like that person. They remind me of so-and-so. I can tell by the expression on their face. We haven't even talked to them yet, and already we don't like them. Yeah. But it's because we have a filter. Our filter is our past experience with somebody who happened to look a little bit similar to that person in our eyes, even though probably nobody else would think they looked alike. Yeah? But to just say, okay, I'm not seeing everything objectively. Yeah, if I'm upset, how else could I see the situation? Yeah, well, the situation with my boss, I'm very upset, but I did make a mistake. Yeah, and he pointed it out. And okay, he pointed it out in language. Maybe I would have preferred that he had made 3 prostrations, knelt down, and then said, please, oh dear one, I have to give you some feedback. But he didn't do that. He just talked as a regular person. Okay, yeah, but he said something that is useful to me, so I have to check, and he was right, and okay. Yeah, you change the way you see the situation. Okay. Or another technique is, you know, somebody criticizes you, because none of us like criticism. Yeah. Somebody criticizes you, and we always go, it's so unfair. Yeah. But how often have I criticized other people? How about you? How often do you, maybe you don't say it, but in your mind you're criticizing, or maybe you do say it? Yeah, I criticize people several times a day. Yeah, do you criticize people? Sometimes with your mouth, sometimes just in your mind. Yeah, maybe you add some names, call them names in your mind. Yeah, you jerk, you. Well, okay. When I look, I have criticized people a lot. How often do I get criticized? I criticize people numerous times every day. How often do I get criticized? Not every day, even. Yeah, I get criticized occasionally. So I give out more criticism than I receive. So where's the thing of fair and unfair? Isn't it unfair that I give more criticism than I receive? Isn't it unfair that other people have to bear my criticism when I get off easy? And why am I so surprised when somebody criticizes me if I've criticized so many people? Yeah, why am I so surprised? It's just, you throw a ball and the ball comes back to you. Yeah, or what they say, what goes around comes around, or you reap what you sow, or there's all sorts of short slogans for that. But I'm just getting what I've dished out. Why am I so surprised? Why am I getting angry? Yeah, I should be angry because I criticize people more than they criticize me. And when I criticize them, I'm invoking some reason for them to criticize me back. And lots of times they don't. Okay, so I need to chill out here. And I also need to watch my speech, because if I don't like getting criticized, then I shouldn't criticize anybody. Yeah, because it's only coming back to me what I give out. Yeah. Okay, so what am I learning from this situation? Watch my speech. Watch my mind. Stop, the endless flow in my mind of, this person does this and that person does that. All my mental criticism. Okay, so I change the way I think, change the way that I look at the situation. Then I'm not mad at the person. And in fact, I've benefited from what they've said, and now I know what I have to work on. Yeah. So then you can go, thank you very much for the feedback. Okay. So now let's get to those 3 questions. Yeah, because our time is almost up. So, first question, how does one compartmentalize overwhelming emotion and keeping a positive mind? Are they not mutually exclusive? Well, compartmentalize overwhelming emotion, that sounds to me like you want to put all your overwhelming emotion over here and you want to pretend it doesn't exist and then keep a positive mind over here because they're mutually exclusive. Yeah. Is that going to work, stuffing down your overwhelming emotion and putting on some kind of fake positive attitude? That's not going to work. Yeah, you're going to be miserable. So again, what do you have to do? Try and see the situation in a different way. Why do I have overwhelming emotion right now? What story is my mind making up? Well, I know why, because the economy is going down, and, you know, at work, they're going to have to lay some people off. And I know that I'm going to get laid off. When I don't have a job, then the family isn't going to have enough money. And then we're going to be out on the street. I know by next Tuesday, you know, they're going to fire me tomorrow, lay me off tomorrow. By next Tuesday, I'm going to have a shopping basket. I'm going to be out on the street. Oh, that's why I have overwhelming emotion. Okay. My hearing aid just came out. Even my hearing aid is against me. Yeah, you're so uncooperative. Oh, it's okay. Okay, now you behave. Good hearing aid. Okay. Where was I? I was in the middle of a meltdown with overwhelming emotion. Yeah. I'm so anxious. I know the whole scenario. Yeah. I'm going to go into work tomorrow. I'm going to get laid off. Yeah. I won't be able to pay the rent or the gas bill or the water bill or the mortgage or anything because they're all due, you know. I don't know when they're due, but I won't be able to pay them by tomorrow. So then I'm going to have to move out of the house. You know, I'll be out on the street by Tuesday with my shopping basket, if I'm lucky. If I'm not lucky, with my backpack. Okay. So you're anxious with overwhelming emotion. You have a whole scene. Your creative writing is an A+. You've written a whole scene. It's not one scene, a whole play. You know, the scene where they fire you, the scene where the bills all come on the same day, the scene when you know, look and your bank account is empty, the scene of you have a vivid picture of going and begging somebody for a shopping cart and getting turned down, so you just have to go home and take, you know, your plastic bag and go out on the street, you know, and with a plastic bag and a tin bowl and bag and, you know. Okay. Huh? Has that happened yet? Has any of that happened yet? No. Why are you so upset about something that has not happened? Well, because it may happen. Even if it happens, are you sure you're going to be out on the street and not be able to pay the bills? Are you sure? Yeah. You should first, before you draw that conclusion, look at your bank account. You may find there's some money in it. Even if there is, your bank account is low. Yeah. Well, they always give you some time to pay a bill. You don't have to pay it the next day. Relax. Even if by the time the deadline for paying it comes, yeah, if you don't have the money, you have friends, you can borrow money, or you can go apply for government assistance. Yeah, they, you know, will give you food, or you go to the food bank, you'll have food. You know, in other words, this whole story that you've dreamed up and made yourself into a nervous wreck hasn't even happened. And even if it does happen, the getting laid off part, there's things you can do. You're not necessarily going to wind up starving on the street. You have friends you could stay with. You could, you know, government assistance for food. You know, relax. Okay? So already, you know, when you're anxious, really pull back and stop and say, has any of this actually happened? Yeah. And even if it did happen, there's going to be things that I can do to meet the circumstance. It's not going to, doesn't have to bowl me over. Okay. So things like that, instead of, knowing what, we know what somebody else is going to say. We know what they're going to do. We don't know. Okay. So if you tamp down your anxiety, then maybe you can just go into a situation with, a more neutral attitude and a friendly attitude. Go into work the next day instead of looking like this. Just, oh, good morning, everybody. Maybe they'll all say good morning back to you. Okay, next question. How is joy possible when practicing equanimity? Isn't equanimity about mental calmness? Okay, now what do you mean by joy? We think joy means, yippee, I won the lottery. Yeah, there was something I saw online a few weeks ago. There was some game show or something, and someone guessed correctly. And they said, you just won $1 million. She's on television, starts screaming and jumping around, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million. And we think that's joy. Yeah, joy means, yes, I'm just bursting with excitement, Oh, the person I'm in love with just proposed to me. Yeah. Okay. Does joy have to be like that? Yeah. Is that real joy? How long is that joy going to last? Not very long, because then you're going to have to deal with the practical details of whatever it is. Yeah. But joy, when you have a peaceful mind, when your mind is peaceful, such that, and you've worked on yourself and you've, you don't get angry so much now. So you have a mind that you don't react so much to other people's criticism. People can say this to you, they can say that to you. You're okay. You have equanimity. You don't get bent out of shape. You don't have to respond to everything. Isn't there a kind of joy in that equanimity of just being able to maintain one's peacefulness? Yeah? Okay. So equanimity doesn't mean apathetic. Yeah, I'm so calm that I don't care about anything. No, it isn't apathy like that. It's some sense of inner satisfaction. Okay, next question. When one is in a difficult situation, serious health problems, facing death, financially dire situation for the family. Okay, it seems impossible to snap out of your worries. Okay, the example I just gave of knowing somebody is going to fire you, knowing you're going to get laid off from your job and wind up on the street. Yeah. You're so worried about that, and it's highly unlikely that that's going to happen. Yeah. So instead of getting so worried, so afraid, so plugged into a horrible future, yeah, just relax, one step at a time. See what happens. Deal with it as it happens. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So one thing that it's really good. You can see how in these situations we have very instant reactions. Yeah. And sometimes those are habitual instant reactions, and they're quite impulsive. Yeah. Somebody looks at me cross-eyed, I respond like that. It's like, wait a minute, chill out. You know, why do I have to respond like that? Yeah, I have a choice. Yeah, stop. I'm going to stop making up stories. Okay, you getting what I'm saying? Okay. So that's it. Okay, so we're a little bit over time. We're gonna dedicate the merit now. Okay. Oh, you gave me Venerable Sangye Kadro's thermos. Oh no, it's her thermos and I'm using it. I'm doing something bad. Oh no, what's she gonna think about? When she comes back, she's away now. When she comes back and sees that I'm using her thermos, oh no, she's gonna be so mad at me. Don't make me laugh, then you'll be mad at me. Yeah, I think she'll be okay with it. Yeah, unless you tell her. And I know if she knows, it's because you told her. Don't do that. Okay, let's dedicate.
Due to this merit,
May
may
we
we
soon
attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha,
that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Okay. Thank you, everybody in Philippines. I had heard, right before the last talk I gave, that there had been a typhoon, on one of the islands. Are you all okay? I mean, I guess you must be. It's 2 weeks later and you're here. But they said there was quite a severe typhoon.
We
Okay.
get a lot of it, Venerable.
Huh?
We get a lot of it.
Oh, so you're used to it, huh?
In some sense. But thank you so much, Venerable.
Okay. Much thanks to all of you. Yeah, please think about what we talked about today, okay? And then apply it to your life and see what happens when you apply it to your life. Okay.
Venerable Chodron, for sharing your time with us. And we hope to hear more of your teachings, hopefully face to face next time.
Okay. And I kind of heard a little birdie told me that some of you may come to Singapore when I'm there. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good. Because I'm going to be in Singapore all of December. So, yeah, it would be very nice to meet you, at least some of you. Okay, good. Take care.
So for everyone, please stay tuned for more of Venerable Chodron's teachings in the future, and we are happy to announce that we're going to continue to work with Sravasti Abbey to have Venerable Chodron here at Wisdom Park. And there's also a Mahayana group that has recently started where the goal is to have a supportive community with group meditations, discussions, and sharings. And we will also continue to invite qualified speakers. So if you are interested, please feel free to contact Miss Cynthia, and her email is on the chat box. So we're genuinely so grateful for everyone for again sharing your time with us, and we do apologize for some technical difficulties along the session. And from the Universal Wisdom Foundation, Inc., the FPMT Study Group Philippines, and Sravasti Abbey, thank you all so much for joining us. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you all.